That's the great outdoors. Wilderness areas of North Georgia. Okay, I'm at the Cool Springs Overlook, and this is Fort Mountain State Park in Georgia, North Georgia. Very close to the Tennessee border. We're almost in Chattanooga. And I'm going to be starting my hike about a mile north of here. I don't know if you can see it, but I've got my king-size Budweiser can citronella candle holder that I'm bringing with me. I love making those cans. It's a good way to recycle some cans when you find them out on the trail. This was supposed to be my first water source, and because of the drought, we've got a problem. Depending on how much water I use when I get to camp, I've got a small scoop, because I thought about this, that I made. I could actually scoop water out of that shallow water. But this was supposed to be the Babbling Brook, and that's about the deepest part right there. Got the tent set up. I'm out at the campsite. Beautiful little campsite. Found a place up the creek where I could go try to get some water, so I'm going to try to do that. I told the family where I was on my spot generator. Sent them the message, and then I always do my peanut butter Pop-Tarts as soon as I get to the campsite. That's my reward for making it to the campsite. Unfortunately, they're going to be in pieces this time because my backpack was packed so tight they're all crushed. But nice, beautiful campsite. And just in case you were wondering, that sign says this is not an authorized trail, so I don't know where that trail goes. I might actually go down that unauthorized trail. That's the back of the sign telling you that the Gahuti Trail, I came from down this way, and then tomorrow I'll be going that way. So this is right at the first sharp elbow. This is campsite number 1. And hog pen, I believe, is what they call it. All right, so we've got a situation where we're in a drought and the water's very shallow. Normally, I would take my plastic bag here. It opens at the top, and I would just let the water flow right into the top. I may be able to do that here. There might be enough depth, but I would just open it up right here and just try to let it soak in. One thing I did was I came up with this. This is just a regular drinking bottle with a lid on it, and I cut the end out and the top, and I can use that if I lay it down on the base of the creek bottom. I can use that as a scoop and then pour it back into there, and then pour it back into there. Reason this might be a good idea is because when I filter this bag of water, the less sand and sediment that it has in it, the better I'm going to treat my filter. You can see how this is working right here. You just that's only about maybe a ½ inch deep. But you keep the lid in the back, and you hold some of that water, and then you just pour that water into the bag. And that way you're getting the clean, clear water. Your filter is going to last a lot longer and function better. And just make sure you keep the lid in the end of it, because that's what holds the water back. It takes a little longer. I brought 2.5 quarts of water with me. But you can see that's sitting on the ground right there. And it just barely flows into that. But probably a good way to do it. I'm going to attach my Sawyer squeeze filter. I've got another bag that I use for clean water. I always use this one for the dirty water. This is a great bag, came from Japan. Evernew is the name of it. Great bag. And then what I do is I put the funnel down here and I just create a gravity feed. If I had to go far away with my water bag, this is a 2-liter bag, and if I had to go far enough away, I really don't want to be carrying that all the time. I used to throw these little things you'd get at conventions and meetings. I used to throw all these things away all the time. I got a bunch of them. This one's got a nice little zippered pouch even in the front of it that you can use. But I keep them all now because I will carry this with my empty bag and possibly even this one, and I'll just sit at the creek and do this process, and then I'll put it all in this and carry it on my back. And man, let me tell you, that makes a world of difference in terms of wearing out your arms and being able to travel some territory. One of these to try. I've tried a few at the dog park and had moderate success with them. It's called a mosquito grid. It's made by a company called Bug Bam. They're made in the USA. Supposedly, if you put this out, it covers a 300 square foot area for up to 100 hours. I'm going to put one up on a guideline project that I do with drinking cans that I find. I do a lot in Water Guardians, picking up the trash, and every now and then I try to find a use for the trash and try to reuse it. I do this with the large size cans. This one just happens to be Budweiser, but there are all kinds. You can see I cut a door out of the can, and then it closes nicely back, sealed with a rubber band. And then what I keep inside the can are my citronella candles for the mosquitoes, so I'll burn one every night. Because there's a lot of bears in this particular area, you definitely want to put your food in a bear bag or a sack. This one is called Ursack. This is made out of bulletproof materials. The bear absolutely cannot get in it. You put your food on the inside of the bag, and then it cinches tight. All of this uses Velcro and cinches completely tight. I'll pull it to you so you can see it. And then this gets tied. These two strings get tied around the tree, preferably over a limb. And the bear may crush all your food, but he's definitely not going to take it. Now, these Ursacks come in black and white. And let me tell you the issue with the black. If you ever have to go find that thing and it's starting to get dark, and you've got it up on a tree, and you need to put this at least 100 feet, probably more, from your campsite, you may lose this, and you may find it's hard to find. What I did was I mounted reflectors on mine, and all I have to do is take my flashlight, hit the reflectors on the tree, and I'll always have the tree facing the campsite. I'll have it on the tree facing the campsite, so the reflector's facing me, and I'll beam off the reflector. That's about the only way I can find this bag. In early morning, late night hours, it makes it really, really tough. But I've got a lot of food that I'm carrying, dehydrated foods that I've made, chili, broccoli. I've got tomato sauce, all kinds of beans and mushrooms and all kinds of things. And then for snacking on the trail, I made some spicy hot beef jerky that I'll be eating along the trail. So I've got one big meal every day, and then I've got some peanut butter treats and some various other things that I'll eat around that big meal. It's 3:30, and had a bizarre thing happen. I was going through my gear, showing you some of that stuff, and I heard a woman screaming and loud sobbing noises. And so I stowed my gear in my tent, went up the path a little ways, and a woman who was participating, they were running a 6K and a half marathon through all these trails out here. And she'd gotten hopelessly lost. And it's getting dark. I don't know how the camera is going to play the light here, but for 3:30 it's getting pretty dark. And it's dark here because you've got a huge tree canopy anyway. And she was really starting to panic, and she was getting to the point where she was hysterical. And I tried to console her, and I brought her back to the camp. She didn't have a map, she didn't have a GPS, she didn't have a compass, she had nothing. She had a water bladder, which was smart, that she was drinking out of, but she had nothing to tell her where she was on any of these trails. So I took her back to camp here and showed her where we were on the map. I asked her if she knew where she had parked, and we could try to hike her back out to wherever it was she parked. Unfortunately, she had no idea where she parked. And so what I ended up doing was I hiked her out about 3.5 miles to the ranger station, got her out on the road, the main road. We walked the road up, and she felt a lot more calm when we got on the road. And of course, she was walking with somebody, a total stranger she didn't know. But and then I pointed her which way to go to the ranger station. And but you know, look, the moral of this story is, don't get out in the woods, even on well-marked, well-blazed trails, without a map or a GPS unit. Or you can put the All Trails app on your phone and download the map, and it'll even follow you on the GPS, and you can record your trip if you want to. There's lots of things you can do, but she was absolutely hysterical because she had no idea where she was. She was totally lost. And sometimes a good thing to do when you get lost like that is be still and be quiet and listen. Sometimes you can hear some people off in the distance. Sometimes you can hear some cars maybe on a highway, a distant highway or something. It can help you get your bearings. Try to figure out where north, south, and east and west is. It's always a good idea to have a compass. But you know, it's really foolish if you don't bring a map. And I felt really bad for her. She was a single mom. And she said her mother was expecting her hours ago to come home. She was keeping her son, I guess, and she said her mother was probably trying to reach her, and she had T-Mobile and I had T-Mobile, and T-Mobile sucks up in the mountains, and she had no phone signal, and I couldn't help her either, so I told her to make that call from the ranger station. That lady needed some help, and I never got out of my shoes. But one of the things that I'm doing now is I'm wearing a wool sock. These are Fit socks, and they're great. They really do fit your feet well. Fit sock brand. And then under that, I'm wearing a compression sock, and it's a full compression sock that I've got here. Let's see. I've got dehydrated chili, so let's give that a go. Put that into the pot. And I've also got some broccoli that goes with that. And I just put it all in the same pot. Try to break it up a little bit. All right. I try to keep all my meals together. And each meal has its own Ziploc bag. And the reason I do that is I get really mixed up when I get out there. And I'm wondering, what was I planning on putting with whatever? And then I use the Ziploc bag for the trash. And it helps conceal the odors. And I also put these back into the Ursack, the bear bag, because they do have somewhat of an odor. So then I'll take the chili and we're going to let this hydrate for a little while. And you'll notice I've got the reflector pointing out. So if I need to find this at night or early tomorrow morning, I can hit it with the flashlight. Should be able to find it. All right, there's Budweiser, the king of beers. And there it is. That's broccoli with chili. And it looks pretty good. The broccoli, look how that broccoli just came back. That's exactly what it looked like when I first put it in the dehydrator. Budweiser can was doing with the citronella candle in it. Flashlight. It's tiny. It hooks up to my brim of my hat, but it's incredibly small. And it can do up to 600 lumens for 15 minutes, and then it'll run this lowest setting now for 8 hours. Pretty cool. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning. Sun's up. Here's that flashlight I was telling you about. It connects to the bottom of the brim of your hat. I got my Justin's peanut butter for breakfast. And then a pot of coffee. I put on my long sleeve synthetic water shirt just over my t-shirt to help me keep warm, and I'll pull that off for hiking because I'll build up some heat on hiking. I've got my rain top and my rain pants. Apparently it looks like it's going to rain tomorrow, so that'll be fun. That's the longest hike I have. So yeah, I'm using a new trekking pole. This is the Trail Buddy. It got great reviews on Amazon. It's got the cork handle on it, and I tend to prefer the cork handle. Better feel. It's got 2 different adjustment points for length, and I did, unfortunately, these came loose while I was hiking, so I literally had to drop the backpack, pick up the poles, and tighten everything back down again, and got it to where I liked it, and it didn't bother me the rest of the trip. So hopefully that was just a one-off on these, and that they don't come loose that often. We'll see how that works. But anyway, the trail can be pretty rough. A lot of uphill, steep downhill. You don't change more than 500 feet in elevation, but when it does change, it changes quickly and abruptly. So one thing I would suggest is if you've got some trekking poles, bring them on a trip to Fort Mountain if you're going to do the Gahuti Trail. The downhills, if you've got bad knees like me, nothing saves you more than a trekking pole. It's the downhill that'll hurt your knees faster than the uphill. And you can put the trail trekking poles in front of you on the trail, and they will literally hold some of that pressure back on your knees as you're walking down. Takes a little bit of the weight of the pack off too. But definitely, if you've got bad knees and you're going down these steep inclines, the poles will help you. I filled up all my containers, and so I'm going to pack this flat, but it does have a good bit of water inside of it. So if you can hang it from a guideline at night, and then what I do is I put a stick inside of it to keep the sides from sucking together and just let it drip through the slot. It has a water collection slot up here at the end. This is a ever new bag, 2 liter. It's great because the end here fits my Sawyer squeeze, which really helps me a great deal. And I just squeeze all the water out of here. But if you can hang them upside down with a stick inside, you'll get most of the water out, not all of it, but it helps you, it keeps your stuff in your pack drier. Of day 2, it's about 10 o'clock. I've got the next campsite at 12. There's somebody there. I already met them the other day. She was passing by, talked to me for a while. So I think it's about 2.5, 3 miles. I didn't take much weight off this pack. The only thing I ate was 1 dehydrated meal. This is the section where the Gahuti and the 301 meet. Imagine the force it took to move that root ball of this gigantic tree. All of that is stone. The roots had worked its way through the rocks, and it pulled all those rocks up with it. Absolutely incredible. Boy, that must have made a noise when it came down. Heading up the ridge lines, watching all the beauty. Okay, site number 2 on the Gahuti Trail. You have to go a ways up that path to get back up onto the trail. So that's nice. The last one I was right on the trail on spot number 1. This is spot number 2, and I highly recommend it. You've got enough room here. Some good flat spaces. There's 2 fire areas that people have created. But you've got enough flat spaces. You could put a couple of 3-man tents in here, 3-person tents, quite a few 2-person tents. But nice site, very secluded. It's between the 301 bike trail is back on that side, and the Gahuti goes back over this way. One thing you've got to look out for, though, I don't know if you can see this, but there's a lot of dead branches in some of these trees. And so when you're looking for a site, make sure you try to avoid the dead branches. And I tried to get as far away from them as possible. There are bears in the area. I've seen a lot of bear dung. Look at the size of these acorns. They're huge. The place is just full of them. So if a bear attacks you, it's not because it's hungry. This is what's for dinner. I've got peas in here, black-eyed peas. I just love them. Mushrooms. They don't look very delicious right now, but wait till they hydrate. And then some of the broccoli. I'm going to throw that in there. Doesn't look like much again, but just wait. until you see it hydrated and boiled. And then, so I've got all that mixed together. And then I've got these brown gravy flakes that I had made dehydrated. And I'll pour all those in on the top. And that's what it looks like. These are just flakes. It's kind of like a leathery bark kind of thing. And then after all that's been hydrated and cooked, I've got pre-cooked bacon that I'm going to add to it. All right, now what we've got, I've just finished cooking the dinner. And here's what we've got. Looks good. That's bacon, broccoli, incredible mushrooms, black-eyed peas, all in a rich brown gravy. And I made all that, I dehydrated all that, mixed it all together. It's going to be an incredible meal. It's Tuesday morning and I'm up at 6 a.m. I've had my 2 cups of coffee. There's a 60% chance of rain today, so I'm putting everything inside the waterproof bag inside my backpack. And if it can tolerate water, it's going in one of the outer pouches. And we're going on to site number 3. Bear dung right on the trail. So there's definitely bear activity out this way. But this one's maybe a day or so old. Say that this section of the path is a bit rocky would be an understatement. Boy, you really gotta watch what you're doing, but the trekking poles help. But this is pretty thick. What is supposed to be a bustling creek, and it's almost bone dry. There's some puddles in various places, but very little water movement. It's just really, really dry. Another dry creek. It's going to be tough finding water on this side. We are definitely out in bear country now. I'm finding dung, bear dung all over the place. A lot on the paths. They're using these trails to get to and fro. All right, and I finally made it to tent site 3. Oh my goodness. Got some big oaks on this site. All right. A lot of rock on this site. So might be a really good idea to make sure you got a tent that'll stand on its own, because stakes in the ground could be a problem. There's one good flat spot over there, but it's kind of uneven ground. I'd recommend it just for the view. If you come out here in the winter time, your view is going to be impeccable. All right, this is my pad that I'm using. It's a double size ultralight pad from Climate, K-L-Y-M-I-T. It's very easy to inflate. It comes with its own inflatable bag, and you can see it's almost the same size as my tent. My wife and I can both sleep on this at the same time next to each other. You have to be very close to the people that you're sleeping with relationally to use this for 2. It also has some rubber feet on the bottom, rubber pads, that keeps it from sliding around, which is good because if you've got two people and somebody's rolling over, you don't want the pad to be able to move. So that's a good one, and I really like it. It's fairly lightweight for the size that you get. Just blow it up, and that's it. I love using I get out of the sleeping bags and I go more into the quilt. It's an open back. So this is the side facing the down, and it's got some straps. So if you've got a single pad that you're using, you can just strap it around the pad to keep it in place. But this is good for me. I'm a warm sleeper. I just let that air out. So you save a lot of weight because you don't have the bottom. And if you're sleeping in a down bag and you're sleeping in a bag that's all the way around, if you're laying on the down, you're compressing it and you don't get any warming capability out of it. So that's important to remember. This one has a nice foot box, so you can put your feet in there, keep them warm. You can cinch it at the bottom. And but I really like this one. So first thing is always get in there and fluff up your bag and get that ready. Okay, so we've got an issue. There's no water to be found anywhere here. And I didn't fill up my 2-liter bag at the shallow creek from the previous campsite because I just didn't want to carry the weight. But I had no idea there would be no water down here. So I walked that way down the side of the mountain to the lowest point, and there was where a creek would normally be, and there's just a minor little puddle, and there was a bear footprint, fresh bear footprint next to it, and fresh bear dung, and I mean like flies on it, fresh. So I got a feeling the wildlife is having as much trouble finding the water as I am. But there's a lake miles and miles away. But in the meantime, I put my bag up on the tree to keep the bears from pulling it. Also, when I was heading down that mountain on the other side of my camp to the low ground, I came across a dual pack for a dog. Has a pouch on each side. It was ripped to shreds. I am just praying somebody's dog didn't get loose and the wild animals got him. But anyways, that was distressing. That really bothered me, seeing that. And I just left it where it was. But it was definitely one of those dog packs. And I mean, it was, normally people put the dog's food in those packs. So unfortunately, if a dog gets loose in an environment like this, and you've got the scent of that dog food, man, you're going to attract the bears for sure. So you got to keep that in mind, and if you're going to let your dog off leash, you better make sure it's under voice command. Oh boy, this is not going well for me. Struck out again. This is normally a rapid running creek that comes down here and cascades down the mountain. The literature that I read said you could actually hear this water flowing down the mountain from my campsite. It's that loud and that boisterous. And this is all I got, is that tiny little puddle. I may end up having to try to pull water out of these puddles if I can't find anything else. I thought for sure this one would be wet at least, but anyway, not doing too well. We'll see what else we can find. I'm back to the big creek site. I have no choice. I went 2.5 miles down and there's absolutely nothing. So I am going to eke some water out, and I'm literally getting it off of a leaf coming down, and I'll show you how dire this is. That the leaf is literally feeding my feeding tube, and thank goodness I brought this little thing that I made. And if you make one of these, use a square bottle, because that lip fits under there and you can gather water within a quarter of an inch off the ground. It's incredible. I'm going to show you. I'm literally taking it right off of that leaf. And then I pour it in. Because I'm using that little scoop that I made with the square drinking bottle, it really prevents me from having any sediment in my water. Look how clear that is. And of course, this is a kind of a dingy bag, but there's no sediment floating in that water at all. Let's see how dry it is. Check out the leaves on these plants. Pinto beans, dehydrated. It's incredibly how bad these mushrooms look when you pull them out and they're dehydrated. They're like little crispy things. But man, once they hydrate, I've got oysters, portobellos in here, creamy, you name it. Tomato sauce we'll put in there. And with the sauce, you have to really use a marinara, otherwise you're going to have problems. And that's just problems dehydrating it. So I open up this bag and I just flake off pieces like that. Put it in there. And this one I left a little moist when I dehydrated it. And then I vacuum sealed it and put it in the freezer. We're good to start. So that's kind of what it looks like now. And we'll see what we get. And here's what we've got. It's 9 o'clock Wednesday morning. Unfortunately, it started raining yesterday around 6 p.m. and it's rained consistently till about 8 a.m. this morning. And so I've been pretty much pinned in the tent. Interesting thing too is my batteries are all starting to run out too. Today's my last day, so I'm charging the last charge I've got on the radio just to listen to the radio till about 10 o'clock. They said the weather is going to pass and should dry up a little bit around 10. It took a break and didn't rain from about 9:30 on, and I thought, oh, this is great. So I got my amber out that I collected from the pine trees, and I started a fire with wet wood using the amber. So proud of myself. Got it roaring, just about to put my coffee water on, and it started raining again. All right, it's 11 a.m. Wednesday. The weather radio said the weather would let up at 10. It's now 11. It's getting worse. So I'm just going to try to push through. I've got a poncho if I need it in my pocket. Here we go. This is the hardest part of the trail too. Put your rain pants on. regardless. They're the toughest things to get on if it starts raining. I've got my top right under the brain of my backpack so I can easily pull it out. I'm not using it right now because that one will really increase your body temperature and get you sweating. So I'm trying not to do that. I have 2 layers on. I've got this, and they're both synthetic fibers. I've got a long sleeve and a short sleeve under it. I'm feeling pretty cool with that. If something comes into question and it starts getting really rainy and I need to pull one of them off or both of them off, I can just put the rain one on and that'll keep me dry. But for right now, I'm going for the cool route, and I've got to stop because I'm getting into some nasty stuff again, just like that. This is the only sightseeing I'm going to do on this leg of the trip because I need to get the heck out of here because of the weather. But this is supposed to be one of the scenic waterfalls, and the water's just barely trickling after a very hard rain last night. Unfortunately, it's just drip dry. I can imagine what that looks like when you've got a wet season. It's got to be gorgeous, but something probably well worth seeing. And it just goes off to the edge of the mountain. Even if you're experiencing some bad weather, you still need to take a break every now and then. Now, if it's raining, I gotta have my rain gear on while I'm doing this, and I'm still wearing my pack with a pack cover on it, but at least I'm stopping, catching my breath, grabbing some water. Don't panic in a situation like that. That only makes your body get more and more fatigued. So stay hydrated, take your breaks, especially on these big hills and these big rocks. And I'll just to show you, they've got everything pretty well marked here at the park. There's only been 2 times where I've had any indecision at all, and everything is pretty well blazed. So you know, I would highly suggest coming here. The Gahuti Trail is just beautiful. That's site number 3. The only one I will not make is site number 4, but that site number 3 is just out of this world. So you'll love it. All right, I'm down in the valley between 2 of the rises up on the Gahuti Trail, and the weather looks like it's finally starting to clear up. The wind has died down dramatically, at least on this side. I'm on the other side. I can still hear it blowing on the side of the mountain I just came from. But look at this. This is exciting. This is the first water I have come across that's over 1/4 of an inch deep. So that's pretty exciting. The rain has replenished some of the creeks, and if I was in camping site number 4 up the way here, this would be where I'd get my water. All right, the misty weather has blown off. I'm on the other side of the mountain, not getting it on this side at all. I've gotten out of my rain pants. I've gotten out of my long sleeve shirt. Much cooler hiking now, and I'm on the home stretch. Got a little bit of an opening. You can see the mountaintop up there. Whoa, I gotta watch where I'm walking. And you got the farmlands out there in the valley. Beautiful. I bet this isn't pretty nice in the winter time. You just, oh, look at that view. Little hazy, big clouds out there. There's one of the mountaintops. Traversing all those beautiful mountains, all those trees. We're up on the highest peak. That's the sign for a blue heeler named Jake that got lost out here in the woods, and I'm just praying that's not the canine backpack that I found out there. We will see. I'm done with the journey. I've had a blast. It's time to go find some coffee, since my coffee got rained out this morning. Be careful out there because the ground's pretty hard. Nice rocky soil. Bring sturdy stakes.